We're already a third of the way through 2024, so it's time for a Springbank update. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, it is 4 months since I first tried this bottle of Springbank 10, or indeed any bottle of Springbank 10. I've been documenting my journey with it. We did the initial opening, we did a 2-month update, and this is the 4. Don't worry, I'm not going to do every 2 months. It's going to be kind of open 2, 4, 6 and 12, and at the 12 we'll kind of post it all together and find out how much it really has changed. But this, as I say, is the 4-month update. Now, to be honest, an awful lot has happened since the last update, especially regarding Springbank whiskies and my collection. For those that you haven't seen, I actually went to Campbelltown, where Springbank is made, and came back with an absolute haul. I got myself some 15, some cask strength stuff, and well, yeah, I've just had a very Springbank orientated first half of the year. So going back to the 10 now, since I've not actually had any since the last time we did an update, will be pretty interesting. In particular though, what I'm going to be looking out for is how it compares firstly to some of the cask strength Springbank that you get at the distillery. That stuff is obviously more, well, intense, it's stronger, but it's also not as aged, so it will be interesting to see how I feel about it in comparison to that, and also how I feel about it having now tried Campbelltown Lock. And for those of you who didn't see that video, Campbelltown Lock is a blended whiskey done by Springbank, including some of the Springbank stuff, some of their other brands like Kilkerran and Longrow, and the other one whose name I always forget, Hazelburn, of course, and some other stuff from Campbelltown as well, mainly though Glen Scotia. Now then, let us get into this. Everyone I think has seen the bottle by this point, but I'll show it you again just for old time's sake. It is a lovely looking thing, in particular the Springbank distillery kind of embossed into the top of the bottle there. I'm going to use my Springbank Glencairn for this one, obviously, because it just makes sense. Let's get a pour in. Excellent cork pop. One day I will pour from a bottle of whiskey and not have a tiny drop dribble down the side of the bottle, but it is not this day. In the glass, of course, nothing really has changed. It's got this light straw, slightly peachy tone to it, but it is what it is. It's uncoloured, it's unfettled, it's just, well, some proper Campbelltown Scotch. The aromas, though, they might have changed a bit because there was a big gap between opening and month 2, so I'm expecting some interesting things to have happened. Interestingly, and it might just be today, it might just be the way I'm feeling, it might just be the circumstances of the day, but that feels fiery today. The peat seems to be coming through big time. When I tried the cask strength, I was kind of amazed just at how much the peat was almost an accessory, a spice, an accompaniment to everything else. But in this today, it's strong, smoky, a little bit dank, earthy, green, vegetal, little bit of salinity, little bit of TCP. It's not quite full on iodine, but there is just a hint of something spicy going on in there as well. But it smells like Springbank, honestly. And the litmus test, of course, every time we try this, does it smell like an old sheep barn covered in wet blankets? I'm pretty sure I change that comment every time it comes up, but it made me laugh so much the first time I saw it. And I think the funk's cleaning up, if I'm honest. It's a little bit, well, it is, I said it was dank. It is definitely a little bit old and mossy as intended, but the intensity of that proper funky, fuggy, damp note starting to get masked up by the smoke, by the antiseptic note, by a few other things. And whilst it's still there, yeah, definitely not as intense as maybe it has been in the past. But anyway, let's give it a go, shall we? Cheers. I'll be honest, I was a little bit worried about that aroma. I thought, I've ruined it for myself by having the cask strength and by having the blend, both of which take the core original idea of Springbank and go very different ways with it. One is more obviously looked creamy, sweeter. The other one a bit more chill, a bit more approachable. And I thought, actually, well, now this middle ground is kind of not doing either, and maybe I'm going to fall out of love with it a little bit, but nah. That's not the case. The thing that really sticks out for me that's changed this time is on the front of the tongue, the front of the palate. It's got this nice, warming, but also really fresh, outdoorsy, piney note. It's not even resinous pine, it's like proper, I'm not going to go quite as far as to say it tastes like one of them trees you put in your car, but feels like it's being backed up with a little bit of a citrusy hum. And yeah, that is oddly refreshing for, well, let's be honest, one of the world's dankest whiskies. So what is the rest of it like? Well, might have got a bit sweeter, getting proper orange peel towards the back of the palate there. It's really interesting because you get that freshness, as I said, tip of the tongue, piney, slightly citric, proper fresh note. It goes back and you go, okay, getting a bit sweeter. Felt like it was about to tip into vanilla, but never quite made it. Proper sweet, but pithy orange zest. And then you swallow it and your entire sinuses are just flooded with not an intense note, but it's a completely washing of everything else away that is that cleansing, typical antiseptic TCP thing that we bang on about all the time. It's there in droves. It's like, I'll be honest, it feels like there couldn't possibly be any bacteria left in my nasal cavity. Like it's just cleaned everything out. And the finish is this soft, slightly sweet, slightly fiery smoke. It's there. It, again, much like that, well, reaction on the nasal cavity with the TCP. It dominates all. Everything else disappears, but the note itself isn't overwhelming. It's not a peat bomb. It's not a, you know, it's not properly taking you back, but there's sweet peat in there, a bit of fieriness, and, well, it's a journey all the way through. It keeps changing, and that is really why it's so damn good. But the question still remains, how does this compare to some of the other Springbank products I've been trying recently? I'm not going to pitch it against the Campbelltown Lock. That I want to do a proper video all on its own, proper head-to-head comparison. But given that the Cask strength one that I picked up from Springbank when I was there a few weeks ago is effectively a bit of a pot luck. It's one Cask strength. I'm probably never going to get it again. Probably no one watching this is ever going to find it, so it's a bit of an irrelevant proper comparison. But it will be interesting to find out exactly right here, right now, how I feel about both of them going side by side. This is it. It's only a 20 cl. I spent enough on whiskey without getting full-size bottles of these as well. As you can see, I have blurred some of it out because I do have to put personal information on these. I'm not sure why they do it that way. I don't know whether it's just they think it feels special or whether there's like a proper legal reason. But anyway, you got to put some info on it, which is why it's been blurred out. But as you can see from the rest of it, it's just a nice label, really, with some info on about when it was bottled and what the strength is. You can hand bottle these down at the distillery, but this one was already racked out because, well, it was chaos and I didn't want to go through the time of doing it. I was buying that much stuff that hand bottling one didn't seem like a thing that needed to happen. But yeah, 59.3% this one versus, of course, the relatively arbitrary 46 of the regular. It's not a bad strength. Body on the regular 10 is good. It's fine. It's, well, thin without being washy, I think is the fairest description. It's not a thick, clinging whiskey, but actually, if you look at the side of the glass there, it has got some legs on it, if that will focus. It's not doing absolutely nothing. Right then, into the Cask strength. Just a tiny taster on this one. Really tiny, because I don't want to waste it. It's a special thing. You can tell the age on the 10. It's I'm trying to ignore the boozy note that's coming off the Cask strength because ultimately it's a Cask strength. Colour wise, I mean, it's hard to tell because I've got so little in the glass, but the 10 is a shade darker, which, well, given that it's that much lower ABV, suggests that this bottle stuff really isn't that old at all. The heat, the booze is definitely stronger on the Cask strength, but the 10 does have more character. It's got more smoke. It's got more additional notes. It's definitely a whole lot woodier, as you'd probably expect. But anyway, let's try the Cask strength. Cheers. Big, hot, warm, little bit peaty, very sweet peat though. And it never really gets proper spiky. It feels like a really boozy, intense liqueur almost, really, in comparison, because it doesn't have the intensity of flavour that comes with age, frankly. It's a fantastic dram. Sometimes I would prefer it, if I'm being totally honest, but even in comparison, even though it's nearly 14% ABV lower, the 10 just has charm. It really does. You can tell that despite as good as pretty much every Springbank offering is, actually the 10 really shouldn't be overlooked because, yes, the cask strength is good, it's impressive, it's hard to get, but I don't know. I think the 10 just has more flavour, and I'll be honest, I nearly didn't break out the cask strength today because I thought it's an unfair comparison. 14 proof points, it's just going to wipe the floor. And actually for me, it really hasn't. Yes, it's got a load more body, it's got just, you know, all the good stuff about cask strength about it, but when you look beyond that, it just doesn't compete on the age and intensity front of the 10, even down at 46%, which is pretty crazy really for me. I think that's, yeah, a bit of a revelation. So there you have it. Has my Springbank 10 changed in 4 months since I opened it? Absolutely, certainly. How much? Well, we're going to have to wait until we compile these videos together at the end of the year. There'll be another update in 2 months' time, and then we're going to leave it for 6 months, have a year update, and see really what happened. But yeah, so far I am still absolutely loving this bottle of the 10. It seems to get better every time. I think the last time I felt the nose was a bit better, it was all a bit sweeter. This time maybe it's changed up again. I was a bit nervous at first, but actually the complexity, the layering of the flavours once you start sipping it, yeah, just goes from strength to strength. And just before we wrap this up, I need your help. I am aware, and I've been asked many times, why I don't give ratings to whiskies, beer and all sorts. And the honest reason is because I don't trust myself day to day to be that consistent, because if I just happen to love something because of the story behind it, I'm mentally probably going to give it a better rating. And that's unfair on all the other stuff that's fantastic but just doesn't have that story or whatever it is about it that means it gets a better rating. So I want to accumulate a user-generated list of ratings for whiskies that I cover. I'm starting to put a few posts out on, well, in YouTube community, on Instagram and so on. And if you see those and you've tried the whiskey that I'm talking about, please comment on it and give me your rating out of 100. That can be a completely random number, it can completely mad with 8 decimal points, I really don't care. But I want to start to compile a big database, no personal info stuff, just pure numbers on different bottles of whiskey. And you can also do it on the comments of these videos. So if you've tried Springbank 10, let me know in the comments below, please, what you would rate it out of 100, so we can start to gain a bit of a crummy community vibe of ratings of whiskies to give out during these reviews. So like I said, community rating is this. I might agree with it, I might disagree with it, it doesn't matter. It's the populace's opinion that I want, not just my own. And I think that will help everyone else when deciding what bottle to buy next. But that really is everything. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already subscribed, if you will be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.